Hello, and welcome to Alive Just Blethering, a podcast where two 30-somethings discuss the music we found and loved growing up. My name is Chris Lavender, and with me is my fellow host, Keith McLeod. Today on Alive Just Blethering, I'd like to talk about Parkway Drive, Killing with a Smile.
Oh, I listened to the wrong album. Killing with a Smile. I thought we were listening to Horizons.
Yeah, Horizons is better. There we go. End of podcast. Thanks for listening.
Is it better? I mean, I think I prefer it. Doesn't make it better, but no, I did listen to Killing with a Smile. Hello, everyone.
Now, thank you very much for joining us. We are Alive Just Blethering. We're gonna talk about Parkway Drive very, very broadly, I think, today, because as both me and Keith have discovered in this listening session, Killing with a Smile is an absolutely fine album, but man, did they fucking top it afterwards.
Yeah. Like, I listened to Killing with a Smile, which I'd never done before the podcast. I'm familiar with Parkway Drive, but I started with Horizons, and in the first three songs of Horizons, my heart rate went up about 30 BPM. And that's not Killing with a Smile's fault. There's Killing with a Smile is a fine album. It's a fine album, but holy shit, Horizons just punches you in the gut, and you're like, "Thank you, sir. Can I have some more?"
Totally. Well, thank you anyone for coming back. Do join us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at AOGB Podcast, or send us an email, aogb.podcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Join the conversation. Tell us what you think. Do you think Horizons was the better album? Do you have a candle? Do you hold a candle to Killing with a Smile like I thought I did until about a week ago? Love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to recommend us to a friend or a review on your podcast platform of choice, we'd love your help in getting the message out there that we are Alive or Just Blethering.
Cool. So, I picked this album because Parkway Drive, they weren't a breath of fresh air. They weren't reinventing the wheel, for me anyway.
Not on this album.
They were not on this album. They took the torch that Killswitch Engage had carried so strongly.
Ooh, interesting.
And took it to another level, for me anyway. And listening to Parkway Drive, for those who don't know, both Killing with a Smile and Horizons were produced by Adam D from Killswitch, and that shows his style is all over them both. But they were just I don't know what it is. There's just something that they just reached for some heights that Killswitch never tried to reach. They weren't stepping on their toes, but they just took it to where I wanted it to go.
My first listening of Killing with a Smile, and I was like, oofed, this is Darkest Hour vibes. Like, there's heavy Darkest Hour vibes on this, for me at least. But when you're saying there, they sort of took the torch of Killswitch and sort of elevated it somewhat. You're maybe right in that respect to say that they elevated it because they maybe didn't have to balance the clean and the scream. There's some sort of gangy, not rap, but like some almost spoken word elements. The kind of the sort of the vocalist just like, and then we're going to open this fucking pit up. There's stuff like that there.
Yeah, I love it. This is it.
Yeah,
I love it. So I've mentioned, we talked about Comeback Kid and that hardcore element. They've got this hardcore positive element to it. It G's me right up, honestly.
Yeah, you're totally right. Hardcore element there is a good way to put it. And Killswitch never had, Killswitch never presented that. That was never their thing. They told the line between the clean and the scream because that was the style of their singers. Even between, as we've spoken to extensively, Howard and Jesse, these guys were just like, windmilling in. You know, they had their they had their house keys in their hands, and they were just absolutely windmilling into the pit, ready to fuck someone up. Maybe even they're a little bit younger as well. Like they were a little bit fresher. They were not as, perhaps, I don't know why we're so heavily comparing them to Killswitch. Obviously, the Adam D influence is there, but like, yeah, these guys aren't a better Killswitch. They're just a clear progression from, which I think is where you're at with this.
I have to say there was a period of time where Australia just made amazing metalcore. Like,
Yeah.
truly incredible. And Parkway Drive were spearheading it. I listened to, I've been playing fucking Connect the Dots here, or the Chain. If anyone listens to Radio 2, whatever he has, there was a program called The Chain, where you just link things together. So Parkway Drive, they were good friends with a band called
I Killed the Prom Queen.
So Parkway Drive were really close with I Killed the Prom Queen. I Killed the Prom Queen had a singer in them originally called Crafter. He went off and started a band on once called Carpathian, and I Killed the Prom Queen get a singer in called Ed Butcher. Ed Butcher, he was a British man from the band The Hunt for Ida Wave. Meanwhile, the guitarist from I Killed the Prom Queen, Jona Weinhoffman, he went into Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah. And that's how I learned about I Killed the Prom Queen, not previously as the band. It was when Jonah went to Bring Me the Horizon, and that's when I was listening to them at the time. The album he's on, Hell's Heaven Exists, Hell is a... that album. Do you know what I mean?
There is a hell, believe me, I've seen it.
Yeah, thank you. I love that album.
This is my musical journey. For the last like week, I have listened to Killing with a Smile, Into Horizons, the I Killed the Prom Queen album, Music for the Recently Deceased, I think it's called.
Okay.
And then I went into There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It, and the Eternal Lord album. So Ed Butcher came back to the UK and rejoined the band that Hunt for Ida Wave became. They became Eternal Lord. He rejoined them, and they had the album Blessed Be This Nightmare. Honestly, all 3-4 of those albums, you could put them into just this one mega genre of fucking great metalcore. That mid-2000s metalcore, just love it.
Yeah, it wasn't... I didn't really go back to I Killed the Prom Queen until they did the 2014 Beloved. That's, admittedly, really the only album I know from I Killed the Prom Queen. But... yeah, like everything you've just said there, I'm fully aware of at some point I crossed those albums, and we'll probably come back to some of them later on in the pod. But yeah, my memory of Parkway Drive is just, they were just so balls out and just so energetic and so forward musically, and then that all kind of just fell away.
I didn't enjoy the first album they did without Adam, Deep Blue. There were a number of competitors, pretenders to the throne, whatever you want to refer to them as. Ghost Inside particularly had hit an amazing stride at that stage. And I'm pretty sure one of their albums came out within a week of Parkway Drive's Deep Blue. And when you put the two albums side by side, I was like, well, I'm going to listen to Ghost Inside now. There was a band I'd been following for a couple. I think they had the album Returners, I want to say.
Yep.
That was incredible. And it just did everything that I wanted a Parkway Drive album to do, and it didn't. So I was like, oh, well, looks like I'm listening to Ghost Inside now. And that was that phase in that late... By this point, we're into 2010-ish. So...
yep.
Tastes were definitely changing. My tastes were starting to develop into a little bit heavier, and I didn't think that Deep Blue, and I wanted that positive. I like the positive sort of rhythm and drive that I think the Ghost Inside were bringing in, and I just, for some reason, Deep Blue just never stuck with me. I just couldn't get into it.
My exposure to Parkway Drive, as I said at the top, I didn't really know Killing with a Smile before this. I came in on Horizons. I can't remember how. I think it was a recommendation. I think by this point, 2005, maybe even I picked this album up in 2006. I'm not entirely sure, but it was just sort of, you're going out, you're hearing more songs, sort of friends are recommending more stuff. So I know I started on Horizons. I remember liking Deep Blue. Horizons and Deep Blue were sort of my albums, and then I sort of fell off with Atlas, the 2012 album, because I was just a bit like, this isn't sort of where you fell off with Deep Blue. That was me for Atlas.
Fair.
I've got a really funny story about Horizons and Deep Blue as well. So at the time, I was working for an IT support company, and we had the company was doing quite well for itself, and it had got a company car, because we had to go on site for clients. We had to fix computers on site, or if we couldn't fix them on site, we had to take them back to the workshop, etc. So we had this little Mitsubishi 1 liter Colt, this Mitsubishi Colt car. That was the staff company car for doing call-outs, right? So we weren't claiming fuel in our own cars, etc. So I burned a few CDs for the company car. And of course, I burnt Horizons and Deep Blue. So there's me, like, ripping around Mid and East Lothian, going to call outs for customers, absolutely ripping the arse out of this little 1 liter to like Horizons and Deep Blue. Like that's like some of the fondest memories I have of these albums. It's just me on my own, like, how am I going to fix this computer? I don't know, but here's a beat down.
Oh, my story is nowhere near as interesting as that. But when Horizons came out, I had the Da Vinci Code come out pretty around this time, mid 2000s.
Yes, and I'll tell you how I know that, because I actually read that today in a group chat with some friends. We were talking about the death of the iPod. Apple have now discontinued the last iPod. There will be no more iPods.
R.I.P.
I never rip the iPod. I never had an iPod. I just used like my phone. I just used that as an MP3 player, etc. I never even had a dedicated MP3 player. I just used my phone. And so one of the phones I had was like the Sony Ericsson IW850 or something, like one of the Walkman phones.
Yeah, I had one myself.
Slidey Walkman phones. And that was featured in the 2006 release Da Vinci Code.
Good link.
Thanks. Tedious, but you got there.
You got there. So after reading the Da Vinci Code, I got into this sort of fascination with like the Knights Templar, and picked up a few books, and I was reading about them. And when I listened to Horizons, especially the final track on Horizons, I think is the title track, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, you were sort of. I think you messaged me midweek to say how much you were loving the end of that song.
It is absolutely. I just imagine this huge, like, 12th century knights versus, the past, the fight for the battle for Acre, all these, like, just a massive, like, medieval brawl.
Uh-huh.
Like, if they ever made a video for that, I just want it to be imagine like the Battle of the Bastards or something in Game of Thrones, just that in slow motion for 4 minutes. That's all I imagine when I see that video, when I hear that song, is just this huge fight, and it's epic, like big epic knights in armor and swords and bow and arrows and Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones or whatever. Like, that is what I picture in my head whenever I listen to that song. And when I listened to Horizons, I was sitting in an airport waiting for my departure gate to open, and I was making memes for you to send, just being like, epic.
There's a genre for that, right? Like battle metal. If you want to listen to,
it's not the same. It's not like,
right. Okay.
There's something uplifting about it. There's a winner in it, and there's something totally energetic about. And it reaches in both albums, both in Killing with a Smile and in Horizons, I think, where they clearly, Horizons, they definitely perfected it, but the the beginnings were there with Killing with a Smile. These big, fat outros. So I think the outro for Romance is Dead is just a huge, bombastic fucking kick the shit out of everything that's going around, but with a this sort of like positive twist to it, and I don't know where that comes from. I don't know whether it's the spoken word stuff maybe that you mentioned earlier.
So I don't know. Did we cover this? Where did you start with Killing with a Smile? Or I think we both agree like maybe Horizons is our preferred album.
Yeah.
But why have you brought Killing with a Smile? Where did you start with Parkway Drive?
So the guy I was living with at the time, he had gone to Aberdeen to see Parkway Drive live.
Wow.
Must have been 2005, and he was just singing their praises, absolutely loving them. And I was like, right, I'm in. And he played me Gimme AD, and then he gave me the album, and I just listened to it all the way through, and just was like, this is the best. And I think he got a hold of it because Spotify shows it was released in 2006, but I'm pretty sure it was released in 2005 initially.
Yeah, Wikipedia has release date of 12th of September 2005, recorded May 2005 in Massachusetts. So they must have gone to Adam D's Jesus to record that with him. They didn't go to his house, it was recorded in Zing Studios, Westfield, Massachusetts.
I think there's just a lot to love about it. It was very, I don't know, I just sucked it all in at the time. It was just, it ticked all the boxes. I was like, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. I got given some I Killed the Prom Queen, and like I said, I'd been listening to Eternal Lord and Hunt for Ida Wave at the same time because they were British bands, sort of in a similar genre. Again, we're definitely into what I could probably term as like just that MySpace genre of music where I would just listen to top eights. I would find a band that I liked, and then I would go to their top 8, and I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, I Killed the Prom Queen were like number 1 on Parkway Drives, and you just got in from there.
No, fair enough. I tell you what though, it's a bloody punchy 40 minutes. 39 minutes and 42 seconds long. Not a chore in the slightest. Obviously, last week we talked about, was it last week, Roadrunner being over an hour, bit of a slog, bit of a thing to sort of dig through. But nah, I totally listened to Killing with a Smile quite a few times. Listened to a lot of Parkway Drive this week actually, and at no point did I sort of feel this was particularly laboured. I didn't think, just get on with it, or this song's a bit crappy, or this isn't doing anything for me. Very much could just put this album on, and 40 minutes later I've probably achieved the thing I wanted to do within that 40 minutes.
Yeah, whether you're tidying or cooking dinner or whatever, it's like, it's a good 40 minutes is a good length, and every song on the album, bar like 2, is within 3 to 4 minutes. Like one track, Romance is Dead, is over 5 minutes long.
Yep.
So none of the tracks overstay their welcome. None of them feel laboured. None of them feel like, you could have cut that a bar sooner, or a chorus out of that. One criticism I will make of Killing with a Smile, as much as it holds a place in my heart, each song basically ends the same. Every song ends with a crushing breakdown.
So that's a sort of another point I have. The album doesn't feel laboured. It doesn't. I don't want to skip any of it. I don't want to rush any of it. But at the same time, with the amount I've listened to this album, a lot of it bleeds into one.
Yep.
And it could very much just be background music. Just
listening to it before we were recording there, I think there's a part of, I'm pretty sure it's in Guns for Show, Knives for a Pro, which is like got that really like iconic yippee-ki-yay motherfucker, if you listen to it before it was put on Spotify. So
yeah, I don't know any of the quotes from this.
I will talk about that in a minute. So those songs have got very distinctive moments in my head where they had these points of reference, and listening to them, there's times I'm like, oh, I'm expecting this breakdown. Oh no, that was the song before. And then
Yeah.
I'm expecting this breakout. Oh wait, that's another song. And the songs are very, very samey, and that comes from a place of love. I still love this album. I don't. It's not a slight against it. It is just like one of the few criticisms I can really pan against it is that I think the songs are a bit samey, and they do bleed across each other.
Yeah, I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but to have all the songs basically sound like they're in the same key, in the same tuning, and it's just crushing beatdown after crushing beatdown after growl after blast beat after awesome riff. Like, it can get a bit sort of jumbled and just sort of sound like the one thing, and that's not a criticism of it. I mean, I suppose it is if you really want to call it that, but it's a criticism of quality. They're so good at what they're doing, and I'm enjoying it so much, and I'm willing to listen to it so much that, yeah, you can sort of lose the clarity in it a little bit.
I was going to say it's 100% something that they corrected for in Horizons.
I would agree, yeah.
Horizons has got some phenomenal moments in it that really stand out and make the album have some, it's a solid 8 across the board, if you want to say, but then it's got some moments which just leap it up to a 10. And I think that's what Killing with a Smile possibly lacks. It just lacks those accents, those moments when it just takes it to another level. It's just always balls to the wall, 100%,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't really deviate from that. Whereas Horizons has that balls to the wall moment, but then it just leaps up in certain sections. There's songs that I can looking through the song titles of Horizons, I'm like, fuck yeah, Boneyards, fuck yeah, Frostbite, fuck yeah, Horizons, fuck yeah, Dead Man's Chest. There's just got some of the songs have got these just accents. I don't know how else to describe them, but it just leaps out. It leaps out at you when you listen to it and makes me stop what I'm doing and go, there's a fucking banger.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're even not being too kind towards like Siren's song and Carry On, like
Carry on.
Boneyards.
Fucking get in there. Horizons is so good.
Boneyards has arguably one of my top 5 beatdowns of all time, and it's, there's blood in the water.
How many syllables? How many syllables can you stretch out of that one sentence?
Oh, just stretch it forever. Just gape. Like, it's absolutely
Man.
blows me away every time. And actually, Boneyards was a friend and I were sort of able to connect off of that. He's a bit younger than me, but is very loves Parkway Drive. So while I was maybe sort of coming back to Parkway Drive, he was like always within Parkway Drive. And the both of us were just like, Boneyards, 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 like there's blood, and it was just, it was a beautiful moment for us. So yeah, Horizons has those moments, and do you know what? Killing with a Smile has those moments as well. They're just a bit harder to differentiate from the other moments.
Definitely. That is exactly it. It's the best I could say for the whole thing is that Horizons is better in every way, but Killing with a Smile is the template. It was the basis, the groundwork was laid. They just had to perfect it. It was so close, but then Horizons just was like, nah, this is how it's done. And again, it's Adam D at his peak, just making fucking great albums with a band that clearly were into it. I'll never understand why they didn't work with Adam on Deep Blue, because I genuinely, as soon as I listen to Deep Blue, I'm like, this isn't the Parkway Drive that I wanted.
I mean, we'll never know. It's not like we're going to get the band on the podcast, but off the top of my head, you could consider they just wanted to try a different thing, wanted to try a different producer, wanted to experiment with alternative options. Not everyone. It's rare for a band to keep the same sort of production team every album, so in that defence. You could just say they wanted to try something new. It's not that it didn't work. I think Horizons is I think Deep Blue is still a good album, but there's absolutely a shift there, and whether that's they wanted to shift into something new or that producer sort of brought them into something new, who knows? But it's interesting when you're saying about Horizons just being Killing with a Smile being the template. If we never got Horizons, do you think Killing with a Smile would be the Horizons of today?
That's a good question. That it's an interesting thought to think if they never released Horizons, if this was their one album, would they be with it? To me, I was already into them with Killing with a Smile, so I guess I would have been into them. But someone like yourself, if Horizons never existed, you might not have got into them as much. It's maybe not as accessible. It just doesn't have the same punch. There's something about Horizons where they've just tuned everything from the guitars to the vocals to the drums. Everything just sounds heavier. Everything sounds better and meatier, and it's great. It's really nice to see that organic growth in a band, in what 2 years can do, what 2 years of hitting the road, songwriting, getting better at your craft. And obviously the same goes for Adam as well as a producer. He clearly pulled out all the stops and made it just magnificent.
Well, I suppose that's part of it as well. You can't disregard the experience the guys would have had on the road touring with Killing with a Smile. You know, when they've came back to it excuse me, when they've came back to it a second time, they've done an album with Adam. They've done it in the same studio, Zing Studios in Westfield, Massachusetts. They're not. They know what they're coming into, and so they're prepared for that, and so they've been able to rather than get comfortable with the studio, get comfortable with the producer. They've been like, right, this is what we did in the last time. We want to do X, Y, and Z this time round. So they've both been able to come into that and maybe work towards that and achieve that. Possibly, I don't know.
Very likely. I've seen Parkway Drive live at least twice. At least. And the first time was, I think it was called the Through the Noise tour, which was Comeback Kid supported by Parkway Drive at King Tut's. And then the second time I saw them was after Deep Blue. There was I think it was Taste of Chaos, and again it was Comeback Kid, Parkway Drive, Bleeding Through, Your Demise. Mm-hmm. It was a great lineup at the O2 ABC, rest in peace, and it was a cracking show. I just remember just having a lot of fun at that show as well. But that was deep. That was the Deep Blue side of Parkway Drive. So they played a lot of songs that I wasn't particularly interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the comparisons was Bleeding Through. They were really similar to them, I thought.
I don't think I've seen the band. Because I can't... I feel like they're a band I have seen. They were maybe on a support bill. It's clearly not something that's sort of really sunk in for me. So I'm just going to say no, I haven't seen them. But what did you think of them when you did see them?
They were great. They were really great. They had a great stage presence. If any of our listeners from Scotland or from England who've travelled up to see a gig at King Tut's, it is possibly one of the best venues of that size. I think it's only like I want to say 300 capacity, if that.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before. It is only a couple hundred at most.
And you just get so close to the band. It is super intimate, really low ceiling, but the stage is like tiny. It's barrier band. There's no space for security in front of you. It's brilliant, and every gig I've seen at King Tut's has always been a good one. I've never seen a bad gig at King Tut's.
Agreed. I've seen some local bands at King Tut's that, hey, we're okay. But yeah, you're right. Any sort of headlining band, touring band I've seen at King Tut's. It's a magical venue. If you're right. If you're in the UK, if your band is only ever playing King Tut's, go see them at King Tut's. That will not be a wasted journey.
Totally.
I'm just looking back on you. You're sort of talking about Australian bands. You know, the Australia couldn't help but put out like some amazing bands at the time. I think I might have, like I said, I didn't come on to I Killed the Prom Queen until a little bit later. I only really knew sort of Parkway Drive around about that time as well. The Australian bands I sort of did know and did get into more recently were like North Lane and Polaris. Now, I fell off North Lane hard because they stylistically changed drastically, and that's fine. That was their choice. Good on you, boys. You lost me. But Polaris, are you familiar with Polaris?
I'm aware of them. They're the Architect sound-alikes, aren't they?
Well, that's what people say about North Lane. People say North Lane were the Architect rip-offs. Do Polaris have similarities to Architect? Fucking yeah, they do. But I'd say they're really good at what they do. I picked them up on through Spotify and through their first album, This Mortal Coil, and then their second album, The Death of Me, I thought was pretty shit hot as well. So, just on the topic of good Australian bands, maybe listen to North Lane's first two albums. That stretched 3. But after that, I couldn't give a fuck about them. But Polaris, another good Australian metalcore band.
So, I Killed the Prom Queen, they had links to, I'm pretty sure their drummer was, so their drummer was JJ Peters. JJ Peters is the singer in These Nuts.
Okay, holy crap.
That was one of those bands that they released an album in about 2008 or 2007 called Stay True, and it is an absolute banger of an album. For those who are uninitiated to it, it has one of the funniest rip-offs of like hardcore, deathcore, pop punk in one single song, and it's just like a little skit that they did for it's the track before like There's No Tomorrow, and they're just doing all these different versions of how they want the song to sound, sort of like they're in the studio and then they're just chatting and it's just like, oh, I just want it to be like all balls out, and he's like doing like a deathcore version. He's like, no, that's not what I mean. And he's like, no, it needs to be like, you know, fast and stuff. And he's like, so then he does like a pop punk one. He's like, what the fuck was that? It's just I found it hilarious. Me and my friends that we listened to it at the time were like, this is just gold, because it was.
I have an absolute confession to make here. I never got into These Nuts, and I didn't even know they were Australian.
Really?
I never listened to These Nuts. They just sort of irked me the wrong way at the time, and I was a bit like, oh, I can't be fucked with you. I've never listened to These Nuts. Don't think I want to either.
And another one I'm just seeing there was a band called The Red Shore. They were from Victoria, and they were like real balls to the wall fucking death metal at the time. Proper like good deathcore. More technical death metal. I think if we're gonna split hairs on it. But they had some amazing tracks, but they were in a really bad bus crash with when they were on tour in America, I think. And it fucking killed the singer. So that was like the end of the band, unfortunately. They came back, but yeah, it's just not the same. The singer is so important to a band's sound, and I think as with I Killed the Prom Queen, there's 2 different versions available of their debut album, Music for the Recently Deceased, as far as I remember, because there's the version with Ed Butcher doing the vocals, and then they released a version which had been recorded with Crafter. And that was, and again, this is probably why I really latched into this sound of I Killed the Prom Queen, was it had that sort of In Flames' Darkest Hour at the Gates sound about it, because it was produced by Frederick Nordstrom, who's he's the guitarist from Dream Evil, but he was doing In Flames albums. He was producing At the Gates, and he did like some really early In Flames stuff like Horacle and Jester Race and things.
Holy shit, I've never heard of this guy before, but if you look at his production credits, it runs from 1990 to 2021.
Oh, he produced Clayman, like one of my
Yeah.
favorite In Flames albums. He is massive, and he was involved on this, so that's where I think there's this. Again, I think I said something similar with Darkest Hour, is that they have this really like Gothenburg European metal sound about them, but they made it their own, and they did a split with Parkway Drive very early on in like the mid 2000s, which is how, and obviously they're Australian bands, and as I understand it, Australia, unlike the United Kingdom, everyone visits the United Kingdom, or they did when they toured Europe. You would get a date in each country, and then you'd get like 5 dates in the UK. And you might only get 2 dates in Germany, 2 in France, 1 in Spain, 6 or 7 in the UK. Going to Australia, and vice versa, getting Australian bands to come to the UK, thinking about it's mental. Like the lengths that these bands are having to travel to the other side of the earth to play to an audience. Whereas then you go to Australia, you'd have like maybe 4 cities that you'd play.
I see what you mean, yeah.
You'd maybe play 4 cities on this entire continent-sized island.
And one of them is like an 8-hour flight away, because
you're going
to play what is it? I don't know how the coasts in Australia work because it's a different hemisphere. But like obviously you've got Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Canberra, and all that down one side, and then all the way on the other side of like the dog face or the cat face, whichever one it is, you've got Perth.
And you as a band, it's hard enough, traveling Europe as a hardcore band, pulling in 12 people in a show, trying to get the petrol to get from one venue to the next. Try doing that in Australia, where it's like you say, Perth to, is it Melbourne? That's I think that's the closest like big cities. That's fucking the length of Europe. That's like driving from fucking Portugal to Russia.
Yeah. Well, I've never been to Australia, but yeah, Melbourne and Perth are opposite coasts. But like, I think it's only like an hour's flight from Sydney to Melbourne, or like, I don't know, like a 6-hour drive or something.
Once you're on that Gold Coast, it's everything's all in one place. It's like this sort of really cosmopolitan, metropolitan areas. But you come to the UK, and we're a very dense country, and people don't travel far. People don't like to travel more than like an hour for a gig.
We kind of, I suppose in the UK, you kind of don't need to, do you?
That's it. If a band comes over, it's fully expected for them to do London, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, Newcastle. If you're lucky, they'll do Edinburgh. If you're lucky, they'll do Aberdeen. They might pick a Sheffield or Nottingham in there as well.
Yeah.
Really easy.
So to bring us back to Parkway Drive, to bring us back to Killing with a Smile, where do you sort of sit with Parkway Drive now? You fell off at Deep Blue. Did you go back to Ire 2015 or Revengeance 2018? I think there's a more recent album as well, isn't there?
Was it Viva the La Underdogs or Viva the...
Yeah, is that not the live album?
I
Viva
listened
La
to that.
Underdogs 2020.
I gave that a listen. I haven't got into their new stuff. That I think I tried to listen to one of their later albums. It was possibly Ire, if not after one afterwards. And I think I remember talking to you about this at the time. It was Reverence. There's a Glaswegian band called Bleed From Within that are doing it better. There's a band I've been listening to sort of on and off for the last 15 years, 20 years, because they've just always been there. Seen them play gigs in Subway Cowgate when they had a different singer and all this stuff, and now they're this massive. They're doing so well for themselves. I'm super pleased to see them doing really well, and they sound like a better Parkway Drive, like a more ballsy Parkway Drive is a really nice thing to see. But
I don't think I'm aware of Bleed From Within, and that pisses me off.
they've got an interesting story because they got signed into a record deal with a gentleman named Mark Daghorn of Rising Records.
Yep.
And he was well known at fucking bands over, unfortunately.
Oh no.
He fucked over Mendeed, and they realised what position they were in. They couldn't get out of it for whatever legal clause was in the contract, so they rushed out like 3 albums just to say that we've released our contract. You can release us from the contract now. Right. And they came back in like 2012 with it was quite a banger, if I remember rightly.
Uprising is the 2013 release.
I'll see the artwork. Yeah, it was Uprising. That was it. So do they have anything before? They don't have anything before then on Spotify by the looks of things. There we go.
Nice.
That'll be why.
Nice. Yeah, they did Humanity in 2009 and Empire in 2010, so that's probably the 2 back-to-backs that they rushed. They're not even classed as studio albums, they're classed as other releases.
I see. Okay.
Damn.
Yeah, they are a great band. Some, like, if you're fans of like Whitechapel, Betraying the Martyrs, they're great, and they really.
I will follow these guys.
What's that? Sorry.
I will follow these guys.
I think you'd enjoy them. I genuinely think you'd enjoy them.
Nice.
But that coming to the point, do I listen to Parkway Drive today? No. I will hands down listen to Horizons and Killing with a Smile any day of the week, though. Those 2 albums have never been cheapened, if that's a word.
Provocative.
They've never released anything that's made me think, oh, I can't listen to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike, say, Bring Me the Horizon.
Wow. Can't believe you just said that.
I really struggle to listen to Bring Me the Horizon these days.
I don't listen to Bring Me the Horizon. I think we've discussed this, but I don't listen to Bring Me the Horizon these days. I just can't do it.
I listened
they
to
went a different path.
I listened to There Is a Hell Believer I've Seen It, and then I went on to listen to their live from Albert Hall album, which I think is admirable and really well made, and it sounds great. It's got some banging moments in it, but that album they made, Emo, fucking hell. Oof, jumped the shark, boys. Sorry. Clearly chasing a trend that I am nowhere near aware of, and good on them. They're massive. They're one of the biggest alternative acts in the world now, and that's mad to say considering they started on 30 Days of Night in a bedroom in Leeds, you know, on Jamie's label in Leeds, and playing songs called Raw and on the first EP.
Yeah.
And seeing them live, and I've seen them live like at least twice in the studios, doing like songs from Suicide Season and Count Your Blessings.
R.I.P. Studio 24 if you're not an Edinburgh local and you don't know what the studios are.
R.I.P. the studios indeed. But then to see them now like headlining Download is amazing. I'm absolutely like 100%. There's a lot of respect for them.
But they're shit.
But I can't listen to you anymore. I'm sorry.
I'm joking.
You've jumped the shark. I did enjoy going back to There Is a Hell Believe Me I've Seen It. If you haven't, because
we did talk about them on how like you. I think you did credit them as saying they are clearly incredibly talented at picking the next trend.
Yes.
They're clearly very talented at knowing what will be the sort of next popular sound, what will be the next popular trend, and playing to that, as opposed to sticking to like the sort of grindcore or metalcore that they sort of were beforehand.
Yeah, they're a band that every album sounds unique, and every album moved with the times, and that's paid off for them. It's paid.
Yeah,
It's
massively.
literally created their life for them, and it's. I've got massive respect for that. I just can't listen to it myself. I'm sorry.
No, I'm the same. But anyway, fuck Bring Me the Horizon. We're not here to talk about them. I'm sort of the same boat as you. I fell off with Deep Blue. I never really went back. Sort of as far as I was aware, they became a bit more generic. The sort of some of the later stuff became a bit more generic. They became a little bit less hard, a little less edgy. Not that you have to be an edgelord for me to like you as a band, but it was just I was just listening to other things that I enjoyed better, and Parkway Drive just sort of slipped away from that. So I have thoroughly loved coming back to Horizons and hearing Killing with a Smile. I think it's been great. Really enjoyed the album, but is it going to bring Parkway Drive back into my repertoire? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I was pretty happy with where I was with them. They were a band that I kind of thought, yeah, no, those guys have got chops. They'll do good things, but not what I'm listening to at the moment. So thank you for bringing Killing with a Smile.
You're welcome.
It was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
Not a bother. Not a bother. Anytime. Is now that time for our one and only segment.
What are you listening to?
What am I listening to?
What are you listening to?
Outside of Parkway Drive, I found that Godmother released their EP. I'm going to absolutely slaughter this. Obevel Clig?
Godmother. Are not the band I was thinking of. Okay, who are Godmother?
Godmother are a band from, I think they're from Sweden. I saw them live at Bannerman's about 2 or 3 years ago. They are signed to the label that is either run by or supported by Kurt Ballou. They've got a very convergy metalcore sound and very Dillinger.
Right.
Ben Wyman apparently invited them to play at a showcase at South by Southwest because he has that much respect for them. They're great, and they've just released a new EP, so that got a good few plays. And I also had listened to the new Alexis on Fire tracks. They've released another single called Otherness, but it gave me another listen on that one they released quite recently. Was it Sweet Dream? So Sweet Dreams of Otherness is what came out this week, but they also had Reverse the Curse.
Okay.
And they're great tracks. I think they sound really promising, and I'm actually really looking forward to a new Alexis on Fire album now.
Are we getting a new Alexis on Fire album?
We'll find out when it arrives, or if it doesn't.
This will be the new Tool, won't it?
It could well be. It's been a long time since Alexis released an album.
Well, it's. I don't know that they specifically reformed to release new music.
I think they just reformed to make money. I mean, to tour again.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's sort of where I'm at. Like, did they just reform to say, "Oh, here we're still a band, we're still active, and we'll do tours"? But are they doing new material? Don't know.
Well, 2 new songs that are on Spotify. I'd recommend them. Get them on your playlist. Give them a listen. See what you think.
Nice. When you said Godmother, I thought God Eater, which are another Scottish hardcore band.
I recognise the name.
Deathcore. I've mentioned them before, definitely early on. But yeah, God Eater. I saw today that they released a new music video, and they've got a single up called The Hatchet. So good on God Eater. But that's not someone I've been listening to. What I've been listening to is entirely different to what I would normally listen to. So I spent my weekend at an 80s weekend.
80s weekend.
I went away with some friends. It was not my choice to go to this venue, but we went to a very famous British, I'll say English, but British English seaside holiday destination, and it was an adults 80s weekend. I was with 40 other dudes, and all I did all weekend was either get absolutely bevied and or listen to 80s tunes. Fuck the 80s, man. I am done with that decade. Like, I'm honestly, every night I just got bored. Like, didn't matter how drunk I got. Every night I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't be on the dance floor anymore. I can't pretend to sing to Bon Jovi anymore. I can't pretend to do X, Y, and Z. This is not interesting. This is not fun. I need to get the fuck out of here. So I didn't have a lot of time to listen to other music apart from Parkway Drive, because I attended. I had my weekend at an 80s weekend.
Very good. So
it was shite. The weekend was amazing. The banter was there. You know, it was a good time with the boys.
You had a boys' weekend. Very nice.
But
listening to Rick Astley and Aerosmith and Bon Jovi.
Oh, God. Yeah, all of it.
Wonderful.
And just, more. There was an 80s artist called Tapau there.
Oh yeah.
I think Simple Minds were there. I just didn't know if it was the real Simple Minds or not the real. Anyway, that was. This will be a pretty short segment. That was my weekend.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you.
Or
had your
that was what else I was listening to.
Not a bother. Well, next week it's you. So what are you gonna? What am I gonna be treated to next week?
This is gonna be a real fucking treat. This is. I'm getting into this. I'm starting to get a bit excited about this, because we get to spend the next week listening to Kazaya fucking Protest the Hero.
Wonderful. Oh, strong memories. I'm gonna end up listening to Fortress just while we've done like a whole episode talking about the wrong album. Kazaya and Fortress. They've got a similar vibe, I feel.
Joe. Oh, I don't. What would I prefer, Kazaya or Fortress? That's tough. Maybe Kazaya. I think Kazaya still has it.
Maybe. I've got my week to judge. This is it. I'm gonna listen to the two albums back to back, and I will have an opinion by the time we come to record next time. I will have an opinion which I prefer.
All I'm going to do for the next week is listen to Protest the Hero, because I still actively listen to Protest the Hero. I think they're amazing. I've said it before on the pod, their last album, Palimpsest, was phenomenal. Fucking the internet's busiest music nerd can eat shit on his opinion on Protest the Hero. I love this band. I actively still listen to them. I'm very much looking forward to going back to Kazaya, and yeah, let's talk PTH, let's talk Protest the Hero. Let's talk about the good guys. Let's talk about the hockey.
Sick. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We have been Alive or Just Blethering. Please do check us out on our socials at AOGB Podcast, or send us an email, aogb.podcast@gmail.com. And next week, Keith is going to be talking about Protest the Hero's Kazaya. Looking forward to it.
Kazaya.
I mean, he sings it. Kazaya.
Amazing. Good night.
Good night.